Hello, this is Artificial Intelligence Trader. Today I want to talk about pivot points and Bollingerbands. The pivot points are the daily pivot points are the blue lines. So I advise, if you want to use this indicator, the pivot points indicator, always trade in the direction of in the beginning of the day in the pivot point, the daily pivot point direction. So for example, if you're under it, you go up. If you're under it here, in this case, you go up, you hit. You go under it, you go up. Sometimes it doesn't work, you would go down but it doesn't make it, but in this case it makes it, and in this case it makes it, in this case up it works, here so it also works, and here so it also works. So you can see this is more than 50% that it works, so it is an advice or at least an idea to follow this method for a little bit of the direction. Next we can look at the other two colored lines. This is the green lines and the red lines. Those are the extremes. You can see they are normally a nice indicator where the market is stopping or where there are extremes. You can see them here nicely. I draw them as quickly as possible in the chart. You can see you have some kind of extreme point where the market stops. You can use also often, this is where also the Bollingerband plays a role. You can see the Bollingerband plays a role and the pivot points plays a role. Bollingerband and the pivot points plays a role. Here it is not the case because it's not always working. Here also it doesn't work. Here even the Bollingerband is not working. Here the strongest one is the pivot point. Here the strongest one is again the pivot point, but this time it didn't reach. Here it didn't reach the Bollingerband, and here it just went through the Bollingerband. So, but the combination, so this time you will already know that you have to be careful here, but you would expect maybe it goes more up, but and here you will already be out, you will missing this profit. So still, most of the cases you see there is a support of the two indicators. So yes, sometimes it doesn't work, but not all traders will all methods will always work. So, but it's good enough. You can see here it is almost always working. If there is the only difference is where exactly to put your loss stops and your profit points. Profit points is more problem because your loss cut is easier. Your loss cut you can place always near the pivot points, as you can see. If you put here something, if you're reaching this and you think it will overshoot, you can put your loss stop under it. If you think for example, if it crosses here and you think it will bounce back, you can always put a loss stop above it, and if it goes here you can go out and then your direction was wrong. So these are also ideal for loss stops, but also for profit taking. I always encourage people that if you are near a pivot point or a resistance or a support, lower the number of orders you have, because if it reversals you are in a better position to loss cut your orders, and if it pushes through you can always add more. So, but it's always more difficult to loss cut than to add more. So my advice is, if you're close to these lines, be careful. And if you look at the daily, one day, you can see, for example, this day, the whole market only was near 2 of these lines. Here also, this case, it is only at 3 lines. Here only at 2 lines. So it's not so often that it visits more than 2 or 3 lines. So you know it will visit the daily pivot line, and the extreme lines are more rarely that they are visited. So if they are nearby, be careful. The Bollingerbands are more used for timing. The only thing you need to look at is how close is the upper and the lower band, but these are also coincide with opening and closing of the market, but also strange enough with news. Because if it is a news event what's coming, this is I think a big news event, you see that the market goes in a range, and when it goes in a range you see that the Bollinger Bands are coming close to each other. Also be aware when this happens that you can see a bounce to the upper side and an underside of a Bollinger Band, but this is not only because of a trick, but because if the market gets more volatile, the chances that the upper side and the downside touches one of these bands becomes much bigger. So this is not only that it is like a trick that people think that they want to cash you out if for reversal traders, that they want to loss stop them, loss stop them, but it is more that it is the reason that the candles become bigger at when the Bollinger Bands will expand. And in this case this is a nice example. You can see this very big big candle. This also be followed up by big candles, and you can see that it continues the direction. And so you would think this would be a fake out, but in this case it was news that was unexpected, and then the market calmed down and thought, okay, in reality nothing changed, so it continues this uptrend. But some people, if you see the market, this is a fake out, that the banks want to get the loss cut positions, but this is not the case. This is just the volatility of the market. So we have spoken now about the pivot points in the Bollinger Bands. You can see that they often support each other. You can see a nice example here, a nice example here, some example here. It's the end of the day. You can see here also this nice range here. So here also, but not really the Bollinger Band. So this is more only the pivot. But let me see here. You can see a nice example, and you can see here a nice example. So my advice is use these two indicators together. Later we will talk about moving average in the Kumo cloud, and you can see that if we add those two also to this chart, it becomes easier to predict. But this is already a very easy setup to for the beginning of the day. You have already an indication what to trade. For example, always up, go to the pivot point of the day, and you have you can make a nice trade every day with a good chance that you will have a small profit, or sometimes a big profit, but it is profitable to trade in the direction of the daily moving the daily pivot point. So that's it. Hope people learn something from this. And we will continue to adding more and more indicators until we have the total setup done. This was it.